there, softball fans, and welcome to another edition of the North Dakota Softball All-Stars podcast, March of 2019, with the spring season kickoff right around the corner here. When you listen to this podcast, we'll either be days away from the first practice of the spring season or the practices will already be underway. But this podcast, although a heavy high school feel, it's got a heavy college feel too, because we are talking college commitments. Now, I want to be fair. You can go to ndsballstars.com. That's our new website, and see all of the college commitments that we're aware of right there on our website. And if there's any we're missing, you can actually just comment there right on the page and let us know, and we'll make sure that we add it in. Now, the podcast would have just gotten really long if we would have talked to all of them, but we have 5 high school players from around the state that are committed to college programs that will join us on this podcast. Taya Opheim from Fargo North. She's headed to Iowa Western Community College. Grace Shear from Valley City. She's going to stay in town and go to Valley City State University. Lauren Diemert from West Fargo will head to Jamestown for her college ball. And Kennedy and Cameron Kuntz, twin sisters from Dickinson, they're going to stay in Dickinson and play their college ball at Dickinson State University. We'll talk to all 5 of those kids on this podcast, and that means we need to get right to it. So I'll get this part out of the way first. This girl is a girl that I've had the pleasure of coaching. Last year at Fargo North, I was an assistant coach. I will be again this year, and I've had an opportunity to coach Taya Opheim. She's a great kid. She's a great softball player. Excited to bring her onto the program right now. Shortstop at Fargo North, headed to Iowa Western Community College following her senior season. Taya, thanks for taking the time to join the North Dakota Softball All-Stars podcast.
Yeah, hi. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. It's an exciting time of year as we're getting closer. Don't look outside. We're getting closer to softball season, I promise. And you and quite a few others have obviously sights set on a senior year, but then sights set on playing in college. And you've made a decision as to where. When did you think college softball was something that A, you knew you could do, and B, you were interested in pursuing?
Yeah, so when I first started playing softball in 8th grade, I loved the sport. I loved the environment of it all, and I knew right from the start that I kind of wanted to play softball in the future. I knew that the 5 years that I would have playing there wouldn't be enough, and I was just in love with the sport right away.
And we play in such a unique part of the country where, like, literally getting outside and playing is very seasonal. We have such a short window compared to down south. So talk about the process of A, looking, and B, the kind of the recruiting and visiting process in trying to find a fit for someone who is from such a cold climate.
So what I did was I researched a lot of different schools. I kind of had an idea that I wanted to play JUCO softball rather than going right to a D2 or even a D1, just because I don't know what I want to major in yet. And I think that JUCO is a great program. And but what I did was I made a recruitment tape, and then I sent it out to a bunch of colleges that I researched, JUCO, and I found Iowa Western, which is about 5 hours south. And yeah, I just loved it. I set up a tour with Coach Greer, and that was the first of my 2 tours down in Iowa. I actually went to the second one, and that was actually Iowa Southwestern. It wasn't a great fit for me just because it was a little bit of a smaller town, and Iowa Western is right across the river from Omaha, so that'll be nice. But on our tour, I saw the facility, and they're actually building a new sports facility on the Iowa Western campus, so I'm excited for that. And the coach his name is Greer. He mentioned how close the team is, how they're basically a family, and how committed they are to the sport of softball. So that's kind of what clicked for me.
Yeah, and I think you kind of hit on, I see a common theme. There's like 2 things that you have to do if you want to play in college when you're coming from North Dakota, and it's probably the same for Minnesota and other areas. 1, you kind of got to do some of the legwork yourself, which you just talked to, and 2, you need a high school a high school coach that's really supportive of not just you in high school, but in your aspirations. And I know Coach Carter has been that for you, but just talk about your relationship with Coach and how he's helped you develop into now a future college softball player.
Yeah, Coach Carter has really been a huge part of my life. He took a chance on me in 8th grade, letting me come and play on the varsity squad for a few games, and then 9th grade for sure when I was just a small freshman and wanted to play varsity, start varsity. He really cares about all his players, and he took time out of his busy schedule, even out of season, to help us improve. And I can honestly say that he's probably like a second and third dad to me, so we're going to miss him this year.
And so you make a great point. You have another year. It's not over for you. The Spartans have made a pretty good run the last couple, getting into state tournaments, playing in EDC championship games. But before you go to Iowa Western Community College, you got one more run with the Spartans. What are kind of your hopes and expectations for this season, if we can ever get rid of the snow and play?
Right. Well, last year we did do well. We ended up placing 6th at the state tournament. And although that's pretty good, we aren't content with that. We definitely want to come back and try to place higher or even take it all if we can. So.
Taya Opheim, shortstop, Fargo North. She's going to go play at Iowa Western Community College after her high school playing days are done. Taya, before we let you go, one more question for you. And it's so unfair, but I like to do this to people. If you can pick one, if you can, one moment in your high school softball career that's, for whatever reason, been super memorable for you, what would that moment be?
It'd probably have to be all the relationships that I have created through the sport of softball, not even just with my team, but teams all around the state. And with my team especially, probably the rain delays especially at state my freshman year. We had a rain delay in Jamestown, and we ended up going back to the hotel and playing games, and Mafia especially. But yeah, just definitely getting to know the girls better and forming relationships with them. So
awesome. Taya Opheim, she's got one more run with the Fargo North Spartans this spring, and then off to Iowa Western Community College. Taya, good luck this spring, especially because you're on the team that I coach. So I hope you have a tremendous season, and we'll talk to you down the road.
Thanks, Coach.
Taya Opheim, shortstop at Fargo North, committed to Iowa Western Community College. Some stats on Taya, and man, she had a fantastic junior season. She played in 25 games for Fargo North, 41 hits, scored 32 runs, 9 home runs, 16 doubles and a triple, 45 RBI, struck out just 7 times, stole 15 bases, and here's some of the heavy numbers: 494 batting average and a 546 on-base percentage. Taya Opheim. Those are her stats from her junior year at Fargo North. Now let's keep it kind of in the family, if you will. Fargo North advanced last year to the EDC championship game to take on the Valley City Highliners. Valley City won that one. The two teams would then play in the consolation final at the state tournament. Valley City would win that one as well. Now we'll bring onto the program an outfielder from Valley City, committed to Valley City State University, Grace Shear. Grace, thanks for taking some time out of your day to join the program.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Let's just start with the Valley City State University commitment. You get to stay in town to play your college ball. How did that kind of come to be? Was Valley City always on your radar? What was that process like for you?
Well, how it really got started was through summer softball, through the Renegades. Coach Mook, the Valley City coaches the Renegades also. So I went down there and worked with him, and I really enjoyed him as a coach, and he offered me to play there, and I thought it was a good opportunity, and I took it up.
Yeah, perfect. Let's talk a little bit about summer ball. So, for those who don't know, the season for spring in North Dakota is only 11 weeks long. I'm looking out my window and knowing that a lot of that is going to be spent inside for the second year in a row. Not that we don't have good ball players in the spring, because we absolutely do, but how important has summer ball been for you to keep developing into now going to be a college softball player?
It has been super beneficial. It has probably been the biggest part of like my learning of softball. There's definitely better competition outside of North Dakota, and that was a big eye opener for me going down there. It was in South Dakota, so it was still like in the Midwest, but we go down to California and a lot of other states to play competition down there. And it was just a really big eye opener to see the kind of teams that they have where they can play year round and are developing those skills all the time.
Yeah, not only have you been doing that with softball, like as a big part of your sports life as you've been growing up, but as we talked before we were on air here, you play basketball, you play volleyball, you're involved in track. So at what point did you kind of know like softball is the path that you wanted to pursue?
Well, I love playing sports, all of them equally. It seems whatever season I'm in, that's my favorite at the time. But softball just happened to be the opportunity that presented itself, and I didn't really have any of those other opportunities for the other sports, so I would have been just as happy playing basketball or volleyball, but softball gave me that opportunity. So
Yeah, we're talking to Grace Shear of Valley City. She's going to stay in town and play for Valley City State following her high school career. But speaking of high school, Valley City had such a great season last year. I think only lost just a few games, took the consolation in the state tournament, and the loss was to Minot, who won the state tournament. So coming off such a great year for your team, what's the expectation team-wise for your senior year?
I think everyone's just super excited to be able to play. We do have a coaching change, which would be a difference for us. I think everyone will step up to the plate, though, and I think we'll have a good season. We lost a few girls last year, but I think we have girls that will replace those spots, and hoping to have another good season this year.
Yeah, and your fan base travels so well. I'm sure it's like that for all the sports, but I know at the EDC tournament at West Fargo Cheyenne, the Valley City crowds were just fantastic. This year, you get to play the EDC tournament in your own town. Your fans just have to go down the road to go to the game. How cool is that opportunity to be able to play that tournament with a chance to go to the state tournament right there in Valley City?
That's super exciting. Going to state in itself is exciting, but just to do that on your home field with the home crowd makes it even more fun. So that should be super exciting if that does happen.
Yeah, and talking about what's likely going to be a great memory to kind of go out with the Highliners. Do you have a moment or a game or a time in your high school softball career that really sticks out to you as one that you'll probably remember forever?
It was my 7th or 8th grade year, and Jason, our coach, he brought me along to the state tournament, I believe, and he asked me to, I think it was like the game, I don't know, it was an important game, and he put me on the bases to run, and I think I got out. And, as a 7th or 8th grader, that was pretty traumatizing, but that does stick with me. And
yeah, but that's a cool moment. I mean, getting to play in a big game at such a young age, and now obviously to see how far you've come to being a college commit to going to Valley City. So one last question for Grace Shear here of Valley City, going to stay and play at Valley City State. Just what's maybe a thing or two when you talk about your development that you need to keep working on and keep improving on to be able to have a successful 4 years at Valley City State?
Well, the big thing right now, I've just recently changed to left-handed batting.
Sure.
So all my life I've been right-handed. I'm right-handed in everything. So getting comfortable with that left hand and slapping is definitely a huge thing for me. Also playing outfield, just being able to locate the ball, knowing where to throw at the right time, all of that stuff is really important, and I need to continue working on.
Yeah, absolutely. Grace Shear from Valley City, staying home to play at Valley City State. Thanks so much for taking time to chat on our College Commitments podcast. And if nothing else, we'll see you at the EDC tournament in a couple of months.
Awesome. Thanks.
That is Grace Shear. She's a Valley City high school softball player headed to Valley City State University following her high school career. And oh my goodness, Valley City State University, what a start to the season. They won their first X amount of games. I think they're at just 1 or 2 losses right now, but bouncing all over the warm states, playing some good competition and playing really good ball. there at Valley City State University. We're going to kind of switch gears now, go from two schools there in Fargo North and Valley City that will have new head softball coaches for 2019 to a school that's got the same head coach that's won championship after championship after championship. Of course, talking about Pat Johnson over at West Fargo. Lauren Diemert about to join the program here as she's a West Fargo high school standout. She's headed to the University of Jamestown to play her college ball. Lauren, thanks for taking some time out to join the program today.
Yeah, anytime.
Glad to have you. Let's start right away with why Jamestown and how you ended up putting your name on paper to join Jamestown after your high school career.
Well, it was a long process right away. I started off really stressed, not knowing what I wanted to do, but I went on my first visit to Jamestown not really knowing much about the program or that school in general. But I knew that I didn't want to stay super close to home, but I didn't want to be so far away where I couldn't come home every now and then. And then just talking to Coach Gall, he made me feel really comfortable and talked me through the process of what like their program looks like and everything they do. And he just made me feel really welcome, and all the girls that I met are super nice. And I've also played with a couple of them that are there, Morgan Geisler and Mariah Wick. So they've kind of helped me through too, and just knowing that like it's the kind of the perfect distance and that they're kind of everything that I wanted in the softball program.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And maybe to even back up a step, maybe I should ask this question first, but you don't just play softball. So growing up, like at what point did you know softball is what I want to pursue into college?
It kind of started right when I entered high school. Like, so my freshman year, I was on the varsity program since I was a freshman, and just after that, seeing everything that like the program has done and just being a part of that made me realize how much I truly do enjoy softball, and that's what I wanted to do after high school into college.
And let's talk about that program a little bit. Obviously, coming from West Fargo, that name in the softball community around here resonates. The first like 10,864 state championships all went to West Fargo. Just that kind of, I don't want to say that pressure because that's certainly not fair, but that tradition and that kind of mystique of that name. What has it been like to be a Packer and to grow through that organization since your freshman year?
It's been really fun. I've enjoyed every moment of it. Of course, as you said, like not the pressure, but there was always kind of that pressure on us, just knowing that we're kind of the ones that were expected to win, but there's a lot more behind it, like all the hard work that we put in at practice, and we never take time off, like everything's done kind of the way we want it to be done, and knowing like last year things didn't go the way we wanted, but like we're ready to come back this year, and it's just being a part of something like that is truly something special, and it's something that everyone remembers, and like you want younger players to play so they look up to you. So it's just doing the little things is how we put it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said. And obviously the players are the ones that, like you go out on the field and you win the games, and the players are what's made West Fargo softball what it is. But talk a little bit about the coaching that you've had, especially from Pat, and obviously his son Matt is involved in the program, and how they have helped shape you into now an eventual college softball player.
Yeah, like I said, the little things. So we hit for about an hour every day. We do fielding for about an hour every day, and we go through until we get the little things right, and they really just help you. You have questions, they'll help you through it, and they make sure that you know like what you're doing is right or what you need to fix, and they just really push you to be the best that you can be, and they help the team just in general, where we all can get along and we all have this trust built, and just having them as our coaches, knowing the experience they've had too in their past really helps, in knowing that we can trust them and everything that they say is what we need to do. So we respect them very highly.
Yeah, and the spring season for 2019 gets underway, from when we're talking now in a week. Hard to believe it if you look outside, so maybe just close your blinds. But with that said, the season ends up being pretty short. It's an 11-week season. We're usually pretty lucky if we get to play in the first few weeks because of the weather. So how important has summer softball been, and the opportunity to, continue to play for a few months after the high school season ends in your development?
That's like where we get a lot of like the higher up competition when we go to Colorado. So seeing that kind of competition really helps. And that's really what helps our players get ready for college too, and just that next step for those that want to go on. And it just
having those few extra months really helps because, like we said, in the spring we don't get a lot of games, especially this season. It's going to be just like last season where we didn't get very many. And just getting to play the game that we all enjoy playing for longer really helps us just grow as a player.
Talking to Lauren Diemert here from West Fargo. She's going to go play at the University of Jamestown following her career with the Packers. And one of the things that we maybe haven't touched on directly, but I'm going to ask it as an advice question anyway. So if there's somebody listening to this that's in a freshman or a sophomore, maybe even a junior that wants to play softball beyond their high school days, what kind of advice would you have for them on how to prepare for that, or how to get your name out there, or who to talk to? Kind of how does that process look from your perspective?
Yeah, one thing I really did is I just talked to my coaches. They knew Matt especially was the one that helped us get involved with the colleges, and just tell them that you want to play college at the next level and they'll really help you. But you also just have to make sure you put in all the work because it's definitely the next level. They're going to push you even harder. So just knowing what to expect, and you got to push yourself from the start, from your whole career, and make sure that you truly are ready and that's what you want to do because it's time commitment and there's a lot of time that you do have to put into it.
Time for one more question here with Lauren Diemert from West Fargo. Getting ready for one more spring season. Let's go through summer ball and then off to the University of Jamestown. You had mentioned a couple of names of kids that you talked to that play at Jamestown. They were actually both all-stars their senior seasons. I think they're the same age, Mariah and Morgan. Just what kind of things did they say about the school? And they're off to such a good start this year, too, on the softball field. What were kind of their selling points to you?
They just told me kind of about their program and how their team, they really get along, and just how if you want to be pushed to that next level, that's the school to go to, that the coaches hold you at the highest level they can, and just knowing that they have succeeded where they're at and that they've enjoyed every minute of it made me feel better, and knowing that I'm going to know a couple people going into it right away made me feel better as well. And just they had all good things to say, especially about Coach Gall and all the coaches over there. So
fantastic. Lauren Diemert of West Fargo, thank you so much for taking some time to chat with us today, and good luck in the upcoming spring season.
Thank you.
That is Lauren Diemert from West Fargo High School, hoping to help the Packers get back to their state championship ways before she heads off to the University of Jamestown to play her college ball. Now, I'm looking forward to this because I spent some time a couple of weeks ago doing some PA announcing at the girls' state hockey tournament in Fargo. Both days that I had the Dickinson Midgets hockey team, a team that just fought. They were a gritty bunch, and you're saying, Tim, why are you talking about hockey? This is a softball podcast. Well, because the two girls that we're about to have on, the only way you could tell them apart was knowing their jersey number. The way they play hockey, the way they talked, everything about them, they could have been the same girl. That's because they're twins, Kennedy and Cameron Kuntz, and these twins are headed after their Dickinson days to stay in Dickinson and play at Dickinson State University. And I'll tell you this, before we brought them on here, they answered everything in unison together. So it'll be interesting to see how this goes. Kennedy and Cameron Kuntz, thank you so much for joining the North Dakota Softball All-Stars podcast.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. Excited to have you on. And as we kind of figured out as we were talking before we hit the record button, they're going to answer my questions the same way at the same time. So I'll try to identify who we're talking to as we go through the conversation. So let's start out with Kennedy. Kennedy, you're an outfielder. Of course, this pertains to both of you, but we'll get your answer. What was it about Dickinson State and really about staying home that appealed to you to make your decision to play college softball there?
Well, all of my family lives in Dickinson, so it's nice that I'll have them here. And Dickinson, I've known I wanted to play at DSU for kind of a while now. I think Coach Mickey kind of hinted at us, and I thought it would be really cool. So once Coach Fleury saw interest in us, that was kind of like a dream come true, kind of.
Perfect. And Cameron, kind of along the same lines, but there's always a little bit of a process on the recruiting side. A little bit unique, though, when it's in your own backyard. So from when you knew that you wanted to play college softball to when you for sure agreed and signed to play at Dickinson State, what was that process kind of like?
It was a very easy process. Coach Fleury talked to us, and we had dinner with my family and our coaches, Coach Mickey, Coach Danny, and Coach Scott. We're all there, and we kind of talked about like the possibility of us playing, and kind of went over a couple of scenarios that might happen. And then about a month or two later, we went and toured DSU and kind of fell in love with the campus and the atmosphere that it gave. And then that day we signed our papers of commitment. So that was super cool.
Yeah, and so you two have been doing this together for a long time. So Kennedy, back to you. You've been playing softball together since the 8U days. Was there ever even a thought that you two would go to a different college?
I don't think so, honestly, because, I mean, we've been with each other since birth, basically, always together. And so I think it would definitely be sad if we ever had to split up, which I'm sure we will when in the future, but not yet, I guess. But I don't think so, definitely for college. I think we're planning on going to the same place.
And so knowing that I was going to have you two on, and I know Coach Mickey relatively well from the years of both coaching and being involved in softball in North Dakota. So Cameron, question to you. She told me today when I was talking to her that you two are the best motivator and competitor for each other. So talk about that a little bit. Like how cool is it to have, somebody to constantly push you to be better?
It's really awesome because like when I see Kennedy do better than me, it kind of like lights a fire under my butt. And so like it pushes me to be the best that I can be. And so it's very cool too because like off the field, she's my best friend. So that's super cool too.
And so you two, like you said, you've been together, both sports and otherwise, since the day you arrived.
Yeah.
Kennedy, you're both going to have the same major in college, which means you're probably going to spend a lot more class time together. And that's really unique. Aside from twins, there's probably not a lot of people that get to continue that from high school to college. Is that kind of exciting, or are you at a point where you're like, hey, give me a minute, I'd like to, go spend some time by myself?
I think it's exciting. Like right now for our senior year, we have the exact same schedule, which is crazy too. So I mean, I don't think it'll be that much different, just maybe harder classes. But it's nice because I always have someone to study with and help if I don't know how to do things. So I like it.
Right. Yeah. Be kind of like a continuation of high school, which is pretty cool in that regard. So you're both committed to play at Dickinson State, but you still got a year left at Dickinson, and really, Coach Mickey's put together a really nice program there. A lot of success year after year. Last year, you went through a 23-game winning streak, which is so impressive, especially considering the fact that we couldn't get outside until way too many weeks into the season. You got all the way to the state championship game, so a lot of past success. But Cameron, looking ahead to 2019. I mean, I probably know the answer to my own question, but what are the goals for the Dickinson softball team this year?
Well, to answer, basically to reach that goal would be to win the state championship. We have had like chances year after year after year, but we have not gotten it yet. So that is like the biggest goal of our season. Yeah,
and absolutely something to work towards. You don't have to travel quite as far if you make it to the state tournament this year, with it being in Minot. Another cool conversation, or part of the conversation I had with Coach Mickey earlier today, was from 5 years ago when you weren't even in high school yet. She talked about how quiet both of you were and how much you've grown up, not just as kids, but as leaders in that softball program. Kennedy, just talk about the transformation. I mean, from 8th grade year to senior year is a long way, but just how much you've kind of grown up and learned from Coach Mickey.
I remember 8th grade year when she brought us up to play for WDA in state because they were both in Dickinson. So we came up, and I just remember being in the dugout, and I was probably even just scared to breathe, just in case, just so nervous. But now it's like we can joke around with everyone. It's fine, and we all know each other pretty well. So definitely changed a lot. But Coach Mickey makes everything really comfortable and great.
We're talking to the Kuntz twins, Kennedy and Cameron from Dickinson. They'll be playing at Dickinson State following their final year here of high school softball. Cameron, just a little bit more on Coach Mickey. She's well, I won't describe her because I'll let you do that instead. What kind of coach is she, and what is it like to play for her?
Coach is amazing. She's kind of like a teddy bear. Once you get to know her, like on the outside, she might put up like a shell, but she is so loving and like loves us all to death. But like when it comes down to it, when times get tough, she keeps us in line. Yeah, she's very intense, but it makes us better.
One last question for both of you here before we let you go, talking to Kennedy and Cameron Kuntz from Dickinson, is just where we play. And as I look out the window of my office here, I see like 4,000 feet of snow, and how unique it is to take our really shortened season. And of course, we can play a little bit in the summer, but that spring season gets to be really short at times. Talk about, Kennedy, starting with you, playing in North Dakota, but still learning and growing and developing that skill set to be able to play in college.
I think it helps. Like the snow, it stinks and it keeps us inside all the time. But I think practicing like that, being inside, we work on so many things, like the little things that make our game like bigger and better. So I think it helps a little bit. It stinks we can't get outside, but I definitely think it helps each person individually like get better and better. So then we're ready for game time when it gets to be nice out.
Perfect. So Cameron, you're the lucky one that gets the best question because we've basically been rotating through the questions, and this will be the last one. What is one thing, it can be softball or otherwise, that you are better at than your sister, and what is one thing that she is better at than you?
I would probably say the thing I'm better than Kennedy at would be like tidiness. I don't know. I like everything like exactly where it should be, and Kennedy is very, very social. So like she is kind of like a social butterfly. She can be friends with anybody, and I admire that about her.
Fantastic. Good answer. You could have gone a lot of ways with that, but I think you did a great job.
Thank you.
Perfect. It's Kennedy and Cameron Kuntz from Dickinson. They're going to play at Dickinson State following their time in high school. Get to stay right at home there. Girls, thanks for taking some time to join the program, and good luck this spring.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The Kuntz twins, Kennedy and Cameron Kuntz from Dickinson. There they are, headed to Dickinson State University following their time with Amanda Mickey and company. And speaking of Coach Mickey, she was able to help us out and get some stats over just to take a look at the two Kuntz girls, starting with Cameron, who is the infielder of the bunch. Cameron, a really nice year last year in 26 games. Check that, 29 games. She had 109 plate appearances, 8 extra base hits, drove in 22 runs, scored 32 times, a good 15 walks to 13 strikeouts, hit .430 with an on-base percentage of .519. So that is the infielder, Cameron Kuntz, looking at the stats of outfielder Kennedy Kuntz, and both of these girls have had tremendous careers at Dickinson, but to look at how Kennedy wrapped up last season, in 29 games, 113 plate appearances. She had 10 doubles, a triple, and 3 home runs, drove in 28, scored 51 times. Now that is a table setter right there. Walked 11 and struck out just 4. Hit for an average of .505 and an on-base percentage of .577. Pretty good year last year for Kennedy Kuntz. I had mentioned earlier that you can go over to our website, ndsballstars.com. Now that's new, ndsballstars.com, our new website that we launched about a month ago or somewhere in there, and you can use the navigational menu. Looks a little different whether you're on your phone. It'd be a little menu on the top left corner. If you're on your computer, it should be across the top. But under the About section, there's a college commitments page. And you can go grab that college commitments page, and I'm going to run through them here. Here's what we know of, and of course we try to make sure we find all these and know all of the college commitments, but if we don't have one or we seem to be missing one, you can comment right on that page. You can find us on Facebook or Twitter at NDSB All-Stars, just let us know. We'd love to add it to our list. So in no particular order, Gabby Nelson of Fargo Shanley is committed to St. Cloud State University. Becca Thompson of Valley City, teammate of Grace Shear, we talked to earlier, committed to Jamestown. West Fargo's Courtney Bowl is headed to Mayville State. And Mariah Peters from West Fargo is committed to North Dakota. So that makes 3, with Lauren Diemert, of course, committed to Jamestown. Emma Johnson from Cheyenne is headed to Concordia. And then just to recap the 5 we talked to today, Taya Opheim of Fargo North is going to Iowa Western Community College. Grace Shear from Valley City is staying in town at Valley City State University. West Fargo's Lauren Diemert will be out at the University of Jamestown following her high school career. And Kennedy and Cameron Kuntz, twin sisters from Dickinson, will stay in Dickinson and play for Dickinson State University. So there it is, a college commitments edition, if you will, of the North Dakota Softball All-Stars podcast. It's go time now. Forget that snow. It's time to get your fundamentals in and start getting ready for the 2019 spring softball season. My name's Tim Howe. This has been another edition of the North Dakota Softball All-Stars podcast.